Thank you very much for having me, Kevin, and I'm so glad to see you so relaxed, although Melanie just said our job is to make up all the time that was lost in the last session, which I don't think will be possible. No pressure. So I'm here today to talk to you about a project that was conducted at Montserrat College of Art in Beverly. I am the Dean of Academic Affairs. My name is Laura Tonelli, and I really can take very little credit for the project, except that I was sort of the herder, and I was overseeing it, but it was a great team of faculty and students and a really great partner that allowed this to happen. A little bit about Montserrat so you get the context. We've been hearing about some extraordinary projects from bigger schools that have centers for community engagement and the like. We do not have that. We're a school of only 390 BFA undergraduates. We're not located in an urban environment. We're in a really nice spot, not far from all of the Halloween hoopla of Salem, Massachusetts. We're in Beverly. We're about 20 minutes on the train from Boston, so we're near Boston but not in it. But this creates certain circumstances when you're trying to build partnerships with industries and community groups and so forth. We've had an internship at the college for almost 8 years now, and I think we were one of the first of the AICAD schools to have a required internship for all students. And this is a 3-credit internship, and it was funded by the Davis Educational Foundation. And I'll come back to them a little later because we just received another grant from them for this new exploration that we're involved in. So the project is called Across the Bridge, and the bridge is the physical bridge between Beverly, Massachusetts and Salem, Massachusetts. The project is part of a larger entity, which I'd like to talk about for a minute so that I can give you a sense of sort of the whole picture. About a year ago, I got together with my strategic planning group, and we decided that we wanted to try to create a structure, and a lot of you have been talking about how can we get structures on our campuses where you can actually support experiential learning. That could be credit-bearing, that can be building skills that we've been talking about, teamwork, collaboration, project management, and so forth, and that are literally outside of a traditional kind of a classroom studio environment. So we wanted to do that. We don't have a way to do that right now at Montserrat, so we proposed creating the Studio for Experiential Learning, which we fondly call StudioXL. Ideally, everybody who goes into StudioXL is involved in an interdisciplinary activity. Of course, we all define that word differently, but the idea was that there'd be students working across concentrations and with a team of faculty from different areas of expertise. And again, looking to partner those two groups with some sort of a client or community partner. And ideally, this is a way for us to help our students have new experiences and enhance their career preparedness and so forth. What's also happened is that everybody wants to take a lot of other things that exist on campus now and put it under the umbrella of StudioXL. I think that could be a little challenging, but we shall see. The business model for the Studio for Experiential Learning is that it be self-funded, and I'll talk a little bit about that, and I'm a little anxious about, I hope I'm not here in 5 years saying that it wasn't sustainable. So a couple of just sort of the FAQs about the project. The project was structured as a course, and the course was called Across the Bridge, 3 Perspectives. Our partner was the local coal-powered power plant. And if you've never been inside a coal-powered power plant, I can tell you it's quite an extraordinary experience, and it may explain why we had such a good student response to the course. There were 29 students in all with 3 faculty from different disciplines, and they earned 3 college credits. In the end, what we produced was a great deal of work that was basically documentary in nature, for the most part, responding to the life of the plant and the workers inside the plant. And the reason for the project was that the plant was soon to be closed and converted. So the students were really documenting a specific place at a moment in time, but a place that had been part of the landscape of what we call the North Shore of Massachusetts, for a very long time. There was an exhibition that was held, I'll show you some shots of that, There was a catalog that we produced, and there's an archive, which I hope will be finished soon. So this just happened in just last summer. I would say that some of the main ingredients to the success of the project was the fact that we had a very open-minded, generous client. Basically, our client was a guy named Peter Furness. I'm not kidding, his name was Furness, and he was the CEO of the plant. And he had made contact with our president at what our president calls those rubber chicken dinners, and they were chatting over the table about new initiatives at Montserrat, and Steve Immerman told him about it, and he said, I would like your students to document the plant. So he's the new guy coming in, he's shutting it down, he's got political hot potatoes he's dealing with, not just inside the plant, but also with activists outside who are still protesting the plant in many ways. So he wants us to create this document. And he gave us tremendous freedom, and he also gave us a lot of money. And that was very helpful. Now, we said, well, what will you contribute? And he said, well, just write me a budget. So we wrote one budget to get the thing started, and it funded the salaries, and it funded transportation, it funded some equipment for photography and video, and he just basically wrote us a check. And then at the end, we said, well, we still haven't done the show, we need to pay for the show, and so we got another, first it was 39, and then it was another 40,000 in the end for the exhibition. So this was an unusual kind of partnership, and actually a little scary when you're not exactly sure how much money is going to come in at the end for that exhibition, but feeling fairly confident about his being trustworthy and very engaged in this project. So this is the proposal to recognize, document, memorialize, and honor the life and the workers of the Salem Harbor Station. The station was to be shut down on the 14th of May. They were going to convert it, as they're doing in so many places, into a combined cycle gas turbine station. This was a pretty dramatic event in our little area. Those smokestacks are a real landmark for us. There were lots of challenges very quickly. The timeline was a challenge, as you can imagine, because they were working on a timeline where they were going to literally close the doors of the plant. We were working on a semester schedule, which is very awkward with a project like this because it doesn't really fit neatly. The weather was terrible last winter. I mean, those of you in New England, there was a meteorologist who called it the winter of our discontent. I mean, it was just one thing after another that they were canceling. And also they were having to pump more power because of the weather. There were safety issues at the plant. There were security clearances. The plant is governed by it's overseen by the U.S. Coast Guard and the Department of Homeland Security. So every time you went in, it was like security checks and hard hats and glasses, and girls had to wear pants and all kinds of other things. So there were lots of lessons for the students. But the biggest one, of course, was the fact that the students were engaging with a community in transition, a group of workers inside the plant, many of whom have been there for 35 or 40 years, who are soon going to lose their job, and their CEO says, hey, these art students are going to come and make a documentary about you. That was a little bit touchy initially. On the right-hand side of the slide, you can see the work from a graphic design student who's a creative writing minor, and she made, obviously, the images of the smokestacks, but also embedded a poem which was based on her interview with the workers. So all of the students went in, they had to interview a certain number of workers, and then they had to respond to the stories in whatever way they chose. They were from 8 different concentrations, so we had everything from writing to photography, a lot of photography. We had sculpture, we had installation, we had book arts, and so forth. So the bridge was the metaphor for this project. We called it Across the Bridge. The physical bridge, of course, that links the 2 areas, but also the bridge, all of these other bridges that had to be crossed. The bridges between the 3 faculty, one from photo video, one from, she's actually an art educator, but she had a lot of experience with oral history. And then the third one was a writing instructor. So they had to learn how to work as a team, and their mantra became basically reply all. Everything they did, they were communicating all the time. I would say to those faculty out there who get involved in these things, we were lucky because we had the grant. We paid everybody planning grant stipends, so it wasn't just a regular course assignment, but a little bit extra money, which helped. The bridge between the students and the faculty was interesting because this was, again, like so many other projects that have been referenced today, everybody was sort of thrown into it, didn't quite know what was going to happen. And the students were saying, well, these faculty don't really know what we're going to do. Well, no, they didn't know. And so it was sort of like, okay, we're all going to get lost together, and you need to get comfortable in a zone that you're not really comfortable in. There was the bridge between the two communities, the communities of the students and the communities of the workers. And initially, the students were completely taken up by this place, this site, with all of its grittiness and machinery and the sounds. And so all they wanted to do was draw or photograph the stuff in there, the place, the light. But we told them, no, the idea is to connect with the people. So that was a bit of a process. This is a quote from the catalog. Some were shy about approaching the workers, busy people doing hard and dangerous work. Some students likened the plant to an enormous creature that ate coal and breathed fire. But in time, the students were basically climbing the smokestacks, riding shotgun on the bulldozers out in the coal yard, becoming very comfortable and very connected with the workers. This is my favorite. This was the most unusual work that was done, I think, in the exhibition in many ways. This student who I had, she really grew during the project. She decided that she wanted to interview her group of workers about what had frightened them at the plant when they first started working there. So she takes these notes, and then she builds these soft sculptures, which you can see in the inset, that sort of inset photo in the bottom there, and then up here near the door. She made these soft sculptures in colors that she said to them, what are your comfort colors? You're asking these big burly guys, what's your comfort color? And they told her, and so she made these things and placed them into the spaces that were initially somehow intimidating to them. So she's probably headed for a career in art therapy. And this is the rather extraordinary picture, I think, of how the Turbine Hall was transformed ultimately for the exhibition. When I met with Peter Furness again about the show, I said, well, what do you have in mind? And he said, have you been to the Tate Modern? Yeah, I can work with you. So that was the scale he was thinking about, sort of. And you can see that we delivered. This was, again, very tight time frame, very complex kind of installation to make. We had to construct all the panels. We had to lower this grid. Lower the lighting grid by 2 cranes over the exhibition, and then there was all the security and so forth that went on with bringing people actually in to see the show. So very quickly, just a couple of pictures from the exhibition. Every student got an artist vest. This is part of a large-scale mural, actually, or large-scale drawing for a mural. This is an installation that involves a work coat, plant diagrams, materials gathered in the plant storeroom, which she made into this elegant organic form in the corner. And then she took workers' stories and she printed them on old instruction manuals and handed them out and gave away the jars of coal that you see lined up here. And the writers involved also in different ways responding to what was going to happen at the plant. The final night of the exhibition, we had a poetry contest. Reading at the plant involved workers, involved students, involved professionals, and so forth. So the takeaways for us, I think in many ways it was a very successful project. We have some real challenges that we're looking at down the road. One is this business of making the Studio for Experiential Learning self-sustaining. I'm wondering, am I going to find another partner like Peter Furness? Probably not. But the bigger question, and the one that I think that we've had, it's come out in conversations quite often in the last couple of days, is this whole issue of how we can create more flexible curriculums to allow students to be able to take credits in these kinds of project-based experiential activities. And our goal is to be able to find another 6 credits in our curriculum so we can actually mandate that every student is in that center getting these experiences. But that's a long path. Happy to talk about it more with anyone in the group. And I thank you.